Borderlands 3 has been just the latest game to be embroiled in this Epic Games Store versus Steam war, and it is arguably the biggest game announced as a timed exclusive coming to the store, which is a big deal. The Epic Games Store has only been live for I believe somewhere around 5 to 6 months, and has already solidified itself as a threat to Steam, and really all of the other PC stores. We've already heard news that CD Projekt has been facing financial trouble for their store GOG, or GOG, being forced to lay off some of their staff. Is that just because of Epic Games swooping into the market as competition? Probably not, but I have to believe that it is not just Steam hurting right now. I say that because, as I've documented and discussed for the last number of months, the Epic Games Store has immediately grown because of one reason: exclusivity deals. This is something that I consider anti-consumer, and I find it strange how one of the main advantages for consumers that Epic Games spoke about was lower prices for games. We saw that with Metro Exodus, but the other big releases since have all, well, they're the typical $60. Obviously that's on the publishers, but let's be honest, the only reason we're talking about the Epic Games Store is because of the more attractive profit split than Steam, and the money being thrown at publishers by Epic Games to go exclusive. For consumers right now, the Epic Games Store really is lackluster in terms of features, and the roadmap has things that probably should have been implemented day one. Anyway, opinions on the Epic Games Store and how they are taking over PC gaming is divisive, with some not seeing the big deal, feeling this is just another launcher download, while others feel the opposite way, seeing this as a big deal and viewing what Epic Games is doing as not competition but just making publishers' profits a little bit more fat. Now, as I stated earlier on, Borderlands 3 is embroiled in this mess right now. Before it was officially announced as a 6-month timed exclusive for the Epic Games Store, it was leaked in marketing material on April Fool's Day, in which Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford put out a statement on Twitter pushing the blame of the exclusivity on the publisher of Borderlands 3, Take-Two Interactive and 2K Games. The issue though is that Randy as CEO does have a say in a decision like this, but he clearly was fine with it until he saw how negative consumers viewed the store. Anyway, his damage control tweets didn't really matter because on April 3rd it was officially announced, then the backlash really began with the new Borderlands 3 trailer being heavily downvoted, various Reddit threads were made calling out the decision, and past Borderlands games were review bombed on Steam, although that was stopped soon after, thanks to a new anti-review bombing Steam policy, which I guess Randy Pitchford didn't know about because he used the situation as ammunition against Valve. But since then, Randy Pitchford finally clarified in a series of tweets how the Epic Games Store is good and Steam is bad. Also, when I say a series of tweets, it may be well over 100, but thanks to Reddit user SlawRFP, they put most of them together in a thread, and I have to say what Randy says is very interesting. But again, let me emphasize, he says a lot, and while I could read the whole thing, we would be here for around an hour, so let's get to some of the highlights or main talking points that he made. First, he again makes sure people know all the authority is in the hands of 2K Games, and while he may have influence, it's too late, the ship has sailed. Next, he dives into one of the big criticisms of the Epic Games Store, and that is the lack of features. Randy believes that some features that Steam has may be features that are not part of Epic's vision, and some features Steam never contemplated may be part of Epic's vision. The vision for how a store should interact with a customer and a developer and a publisher is all part of the equation. He then goes on to mention again the roadmap that Epic Games has provided us, which he does acknowledge the need to have these features implemented as soon as possible, but believes by the time Borderlands 3 releases, they will be there, and if they're not, it'll be trouble for Epic Games. It will become a boon to their store if they bring sufficient features to make the customer experience great for us. Epic will suffer again if by the time Borderlands 3 launches, the customer experience is not good enough. This is a tremendous forcing function for Epic, and later adding, it is possible that the Epic Games Store does not successfully complete enough features for the store before Borderlands 3 launches to be quote-unquote good enough. That's a risk, it's one that our publishing partner 2K was willing to take, and I mean, come on, we all know what this is really about for 2K Games and Take-Two Interactive. It's the money, that's it. They don't care about the features, it's the money. Now, Randy really wanted to make a point about the values of the companies running the stores. It sure sounds like he believes that right now Epic Games may appear as the bad guy, but down the road long term, their store will be the best for consumers and everybody, which is a pretty big hypothetical, but it sure sounds like he's trying to say Valve is bad and Epic is good. He would further discuss his experience working with both companies for years and boldly claim, from a track record point of view, my expectation is that Epic's investment in technology will outpace Valve's substantially. When we look back at Steam in 5 or 10 years, it may look like a dying store, and other competitive stores will be the place to be. The competitive store that happens to be the leader in 10 years may not be Epic's store, but it probably won't be Valve's. And Epic's moves right now are opening the door and paving the way for a vibrant, competitive economy. Look, what I don't understand is, how is exclusivity deals good for competition? What I fear will end up happening is that this is what PC gaming permanently becomes, with Valve paying for exclusives and Epic doing the same. Maybe another company comes into the fold. I think we can all agree that Epic Games Store is good for publishers, but other than that, I at least for now don't see the benefits for anyone else. Sure, long term it'll get better, but there's a lot of assumptions being thrown around. For what we know, next Apple could launch the Apple Game Store and buy a bunch of games as exclusives. We already have Electronic Arts, Activision Blizzard, and other game companies using only their very own launcher's clients. And I just don't know if this current exclusivity strategy that Epic has implemented will be best for consumers and everyone one day. Looking at it right now, it just seems like a mess. But continuing, Randy says, the stores that tend to win are the stores that offer the best to their customers. It's very difficult for customer interest to be king with one store, which that actually goes somewhat against what the Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney has said, which is that it's nearly perfect for customers already. There's no hope of displacing a dominant storefront solely by adding marginally more store features or a marginally better install experience. These battles will be won on the basis of game supply, consumer prices, and developer revenue sharing. So I don't know, the strategy for Epic sure seems to be aimed at developers and publishers only right now. For consumers, all I've really seen is games announced and marketed for Steam being pulled and going exclusive on Epic, which that sure doesn't sound very pro-consumer and pro-competition. Randy goes on to explain how the current PC stores like Discord aren't and can't be true competition against Steam, and once again boldly states Epic has credibility here because they have been supplying engine technology with the Unreal Engine to the industry for over 20 years. We've all come to be able to trust and rely upon Epic's fair play and goodwill, which I don't see fair play with exclusivity deals, and more importantly making deals with publishers that previously committed their game to Steam. Now we finally get to Randy's main points, which is that Valve is bad and Epic is good. I mean, it's as simple as that. As you can see here, he explains all the good Epic Games has been doing, like reducing licensing rates for developers with their game engine and making it more accessible to people like you and I. But he follows that good up by saying that meanwhile, Valve has taken an absurd cut of the revenue, which would be fine except that they have not reinvested it. This is where looking at the values of the company are important. Also, the way the company is organized and managed is really important to the calculus as well. Valve is a private company, and to the best that we can see, a huge amount of the value that Valve has generated has been used to enrich the handful of people who own and manage the company. So yeah, Randy says Valve is greedy pretty much, and criticizes them being a private company, which in all honesty, I prefer private over public in gaming. Just a personal preference, because as we've seen with Take-Two Interactive, Electronic Arts, and Activision Blizzard, they have some very greedy investors and people in charge. Also, I find this a little bizarre, mainly because Gearbox is also private, as Randy next points out, and he's been accused by former Gearbox executives as being a lying con man who has committed financial crimes. But I will say Valve can and should do more, specifically in the profit split with companies, and also the games they've been delivering themselves. I still don't understand why they can't release a game with a 3 in it. Now, Randy believes the lack of competition is why Valve has not really done much, but now things have to change. Now there is an external force that is real. This external force, the Epic Store, is a real significant threat to Steam. Steam must adapt or it will perish. Almost immediately, we saw Steam crumble its previously unwavering stance on revenue share. Holy crap, that's a miracle. I think the folks at Valve are really smart and really great, and they also are probably starting to redirect investment into their store. If Valve is smart, and they should preemptively maneuver as many resources as possible towards improving the store and preparing for Epic's inevitable challenge to Steam from a features point of view. Or what could happen is Valve starts buying exclusives and another company enters the mix and does the exact same thing, which is another possibility to consider. But Randy makes a prediction that if I were to bet on this, and remember I've got a pretty good seat with a great view of this competition, Epic will inevitably surpass Valve on features and quality of service. Epic is differently set up from Valve right now. Epic shareholders are very motivated not to take chips off the table table, so to speak, but to reinvest those shares into the company. They have an incredible valuation right now, but they are motivated to increase it, and they have the resources really to make some big plays towards that. Essentially, the next couple paragraphs, Randy again says Valve's leadership is solely interested in making money, while Epic Games is motivated to build a store that is quote-unquote a gift to customers and developers and publishers. Furthermore, he adds that he's happy Epic is the company disrupting the monopoly that is Steam, and believes Epic will bring balance to the Force. Yes, a Star Wars reference. We're finally nearing the end, and Randy once again makes his support of the Epic Games Store known, and believes it was a brave decision made by Take-Two. He specifically says, in a world where EA and Activision cannot really be the ones to take the risk to help the forcing function happen, Take-Two shows some balls and steps up with our game, Borderlands 3, to be the content that catalyzes this moment. And furthermore, so we're going to swallow the Epic Games Store pill with Borderlands 3, and some of you guys are going to hate it and scream bloody murder, and you'll even blame me personally for it. And you can bleep and moan and brigade and stalk my crap, but at the end of the day, when we look back at this moment, we'll realize that this is the moment where the digital stores on PC become unmonopolized. And we're all going to look back and see how change happened and how costs for developers and publishers to be on stores went down, and how that value was passed on to customers. So that pretty much is Randy's full thread on the Epic Games Store and why he thinks they ultimately will win the PC gaming store war. The Epic Games CEO also ended up retweeting this thread, saying Randy Pitchford wrote a great tweet storm on the Epic Games Store and Borderlands, which a Redditor assembled below. Sort comments by controversial to see both points of view. And why is he saying that? Because this Reddit post has been met with a ton of negativity, with many people pointing out that strong-arming people into using your platform is not pro-consumer or pro-competition. Randy also didn't take too kindly to the negative comments being written on the thread, saying many of them are laughable and extremely detached from reality, but from what I've seen, the majority of them have the same criticism, and that is Epic Games is going about this in the wrong way. Taking down a quote-unquote monopoly with just another monopoly is not helping build competition, it's just becoming part of the problem that they are supposedly fighting. Honestly, I see the points Randy has made, but it's built on quite a bit of speculation. My big question is what happens when the Fortnite hype finally wears off? Epic Games is run by Tim Sweeney and has majority control of the company, but Tencent, which is a publicly traded company, has a 40% stake in Epic Games. Randy wanted his tweet thread to be publicized, so here it is, although he understands the conversation has just been dominated by a bunch of external voices. Some inertia-based resistance to change, some is fear-based security, some is reasonable but near view instead of long-term features, etc. Some is just plain fun troll hobbyists. It's a mix, which I'd argue consumers are judging Epic Games for the actions of now, not tomorrow. I don't like this idea of something could be great one day for everybody, because for right now, Epic Games launched a lackluster store missing basic features, they're buying exclusives, forcing people to a store, and they are making exclusive deals with games already committed to other platforms. In all honesty, my opinion is that sure, things could and hopefully will get better, but there's no way of knowing what the future will entail, especially with other companies maybe coming into the fold. And this could all get 10 times worse with all games being exclusive to a specific PC store. Anyway, I recognize that opinions on this topic are divisive, so did Randy convince you that the Epic Games Store is best for everyone, long term or not? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value. Make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I don't always get into video form, so make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining, consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.